Welcome to the ADHD Brains in Business show. I'm your host, Kim Rain, an ADHD author, educator, coach, and the proud owner of a late ADHD diagnosis. In these lively, perfectly imperfect episodes packed with hacks, tips, and tricks, my guest experts and I are going to bring you motivation, education, and strategies on how to balance life, business, and ADHD so you can do things your brain's way and thrive with the confidence and the success that you deserve. So fasten your seatbelts, hold on to your hats, and scream if you want to go faster, because here we go. Okie dokie, guys, here we go again. Thanks for coming back. I mean, just thanks for hanging around and giving me another chance, right? I want to talk today about some of the biggest mistakes mistakes I see ADHDers making in business. You know, I've been on my own business journey, and I always say, you know, when you go onto these things and you do your bio or you introduce yourself and people see like all the shiny bits and pieces, you know, they see the business, and, you know, I'm very proud of my business. We've got, really successful businesses. I've got kind of 3 businesses, and people see that and they think, oh, it's all right for you, you've got it all together. I promise you, my journey to this place was, talk about imperfect, was a roller coaster, a white knuckle ride. There were tears, there were tantrums, there were breakdowns, there were full on, I think I probably nearly threw a few computers and laptops out of windows. There was shame, there was embarrassment at all the times it went wrong, at all the times I would be like, all the years that I went round and round in circles where I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I would always do it to a certain extent, but I always knew I never was getting anywhere near as far as I could or felt I should. I always knew that I was not reaching my potential. And I used to get really pissed off with myself because I would see other people overtaking me, I guess, and achieving things that, I knew that I was able to do or should be able to do, but I just couldn't seem to make it happen. So when I do things and people see my business and see what I've done, like, I always really want to tell them about how it came to be that we got here, because, there were so many mistakes. And these are some of the things that I'm going to share with you today that I see go wrong in other people's businesses, but oh my word, did they go wrong in mine. But actually what I want to say to you is, wherever you are in your business right now, however you feel, if you are in that place where you are maybe feeling a bit like, is this ever going to work? Or maybe if you're really honest with yourself, you've got a bit of an expensive hobby. Maybe you're somebody who is doing a good turnover, who turns over a fair old whack each year, but gets to the end of the year with no profit because you've spent so much of the money on either courses or mentors or networking in here or doing whatever it may be, or a new piece of equipment that you felt you needed. So you're making the money, but you're also impulsively spending it as well. I've been there. I can tick that box. Let me tell you. Everything changed when I really understood my ADHD and I understood the effects of how that was showing up in my business. And what that enabled me to do was, when I made the change from being a coach, I was coaching, high achieving women who were burning out, who were struggling with overwhelm, who were struggling with their confidence, who were struggling with their hormones. My background, 20 years of coaching in various forms, has been personal trainer. I train personal trainers. I then went to be study, hormones, study mindset, study neuroscience, really understand how the brain worked. That brought me to this place where I was working with these women, and suddenly ADHD came into my world. So when I made that switch from being, a health and wellbeing coach, I guess, to really focusing in on the ADHD and understanding my own ADHD, what I was actually able to do was grow the business well, grow it successfully and grow it quickly, and grow it to a place where I've got a business that I consider to be successful, not only financially, but because in order to have that success, I am not on the carpet, bawling my eyes out, thinking, yeah, great. Either I've got the money and I haven't got the energy, or I've got the energy and I haven't got the money. I'm not compromising. But like I say, this has only come from really understanding my ADHD and understanding what works and what doesn't. So I want to share with you today 3 of the mistakes that I see people make, and sometimes on repeat. So first of all is too many ideas. That cognitive hyperactivity that us ADHDers have, mixed with the creativity of our ADHD brain, means lots of ideas, loads and loads of ideas. And what we can do is we can get overly excited and we can go off in a tangent on the wrong direction. Cognitive hyperactivity is when hyperactivity turns inwards. So we talk about, ADHD and being hyperactive, and the stereotypical hyperactivity of, fidgeting or, jumping up and down, having to jiggle your legs all the time. But actually, when hyperactivity turns inwards and it goes cognitively, which is a symptom that's more associated with those assigned female at birth and adults, and it can present as racing thoughts, constant ideas, fast talking, interrupting, easily being bored, multitasking. Are you ticking as we're going along, guys? Because I am. Insomnia, oh my gosh, that awful, either you've slept for a bit or you haven't slept, but it's 2:00 in the morning and suddenly your brain is in overdrive. Obviously, at that time of night, everything seems 10 times worse. Everything seems 10 times more urgent, more important. Like everything's going to, the whole of your future and your children's future and their safety and their sanity is resting on you getting that email out tomorrow morning. And to the point where oh no, I think I need to get up and do it now, which hopefully you don't. It can also show up as overworking, shows up as difficulty listening to other people. And the other way cognitive hyperactivity shows up is this need to always be moving forward. On to the next thing, and on to the next thing, and the next. Never stopping to celebrate or acknowledge the achievements that you've made. The feeling of never being, having, or doing enough. I would say in my 20 years of coaching, enough has been the main driver of so many challenges, so many burnouts, so many, so much lack of confidence. It's like, am I enough? Do I do enough? And do I have enough? Those 3 things really drive people to burn themselves out, at least. So that kind of mental restlessness can really make staying focused on a project or an idea or a task really challenging. And in business, this can cost us time and money. So we need to learn to pause. We need to learn to prioritize and have a clear business strategy and plan. I call it setting the sat nav, setting the sat nav. If you're driving from John O'Groats to Land's End, you're going to have a sat nav these days. Back in the old days, it may have been a map. Some of you may still enjoy reading maps. It was never my forte. Certainly not. It helps if you know left from your right. Okay. So, but you're going to set your sat nav. Now, on that journey, you might stop to go to the loo a few times. You might stop for some snacks. There might be some roadworks, but generally you are going to follow the sat nav and you are going to get to your destination. If we don't set that sat nav, the chances are we're going to find ourselves stuck on ring roads. We're going to go round, too many junctions on motorways. It's going to take us 10 times longer to get there if we make it at all. We may even give up and go home. So I want you to have a few questions you ask for yourself, when you've got the strategy, and many of you probably are like, yeah, I do my strategy every year, or I do my strategy regularly, and then I go off, tangent, even with the strategy. So I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions when ideas come up or new opportunities come up, or someone says, oh my gosh, you should do this, or sometimes with clients, I almost have to have an ideas amnesty at the beginning of the session. It's like, okay, tell me all this week's ideas. Let's dump them all out, write them all down. Some of them are phenomenal ideas. Some of them are brilliant ideas, but ideas don't pay wages, right? They don't put the food on the table. It's putting the ideas into practice that does. And the way we actually make the money out of the ideas isn't just putting them into practice, but is finishing and following through on those ideas, right? So I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions when a new idea comes into your head. I want you to ask yourself, does this fit with the plan? Does this fit with where I'm going? And the other question is, have I finished everything else? Have I finished everything on the current project that I'm working with? You know, I used to have endless, unfinished programs, workshops, books, emails, blogs on my computer, on my laptop. So many of them, because something else would come along and I would get distracted. So I want you to think about, have I finished everything? And each month, sit down and check in. What is going on with the strategy? What was I planning to do that I haven't done? And what am I going to do next month? And are some of the things that I was planning to do and haven't done? Sometimes things may change slightly. Sometimes, you know, it might be, well, actually, that's not relevant. This podcast is a prime example. This podcast was, you know, I was setting the sat nav for this again and again and again and again. And over the last 3 years, this has been on my to-do list. And each month I was putting it off. And in the end, I thought, okay, here's the deal, Kim. Right now, you're building the business. I've written in the last 3 years, there's been a book. There's been 2 ICF accreditations, a CPD accreditation. There has been coaching. There has been programs launched. You know, there's been masterminds. There's been all sorts of stuff to get the business up and running. And actually, there had to come a point where it's like, okay, I know the podcast is going to happen, but actually right now, as much as I want to do it, is it part of the big plan? Is it the thing that's going to put money on the table? Money on the table, food on the table, money in the bank. And at the time it wasn't. So just check, does this fit with the plan, and have I finished everything else? And if the fact I'm doing this podcast now is because actually I got to a point where I was like, yeah, I now have the time and the space to do it. The other thing is getting distracted. So obviously there's the inability to sustain focus kind of distraction, like the squirrel type of stuff, you know, the subject of many memes and jokes. There's, you know, like the distraction of emails, of notifications, of the rings and pings and dings on your computer, the shiny new objects, the new opportunities, new courses, etc. There's the distraction of scrolling. But the distraction that I see that is the biggest problem in business for those with ADHD and others, to be honest, is the distraction of comparisonitis. The distraction of looking around and looking at what everybody else is doing. Every time we stop to look at what somebody else is doing, we are slowing ourselves down. The only race that you are in is with yourself. And what we need to do is we need to learn to focus on our strengths and what we're good at and what our priorities are, more than looking around and competing with others. You know, yes, we get caught with other distractions. You know, we are quite sensory, and we can get emotional distractions where, you know, maybe something happens and that thought gets stuck in your head all day long, and then it becomes really difficult to work, etc. But ultimately, that distraction of what everybody else is doing. So, you know, I would say to you, are there people that you follow or that are in your network that distract you? And maybe you love these people, but maybe like me, they are people that you started out on a course with or on a certain journey with, and who are maybe have gone a bit faster than you and got a bit further than you for whatever reason. And now you're looking around thinking, oh, well, I'm not as good as them, or oh, they've gone further than me. Oh, now there's no point in me doing it now, or someone else has done it. So what's the point? I say to my clients all the time, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane and don't worry about what other people are doing. They're not you. They don't have your story. They don't have your experience. Just be very aware of the time and energy you are putting in to comparing yourself with others. with others that are not living your life, your truth, your situation. Understand your triggers. What are the triggers? Maybe, like I say, maybe there's certain people you follow on social media. Unfollow them. If everybody that you are following on social media is in your industry, then the algorithm is probably not doing you many favors. And the people outside of that, the people that you want to see, your ideal clients, probably aren't seeing you either. So, unfollow the people on social media. You can always go back to following them again. You can always go and check in with them every now and then. But if they are distracting you and making you feel less than, or making you doubt yourself, or making you feel not good enough, there's that word again, enough, making you not feel enough, then unfollow them. Get some headspace. If people like that are living rent-free in your head, making you feel you're not good enough, get rid of them in the nicest possible way. Just unfollow them. They can still be there. And there's other things. Understand the triggers within your environment. Is your workspace clutter-free? Reduce the pressure. Look at your diary. Look at your commitments. Very often we can overcommit. We can get distracted with doing things that are not going to take our business forward. That whole FOMO part. And the simple things. Turn off your notifications. Put your phone out of the room or out of sight. We know that if your phone is in your eye line, you are going to be picking it up more often. It's been proven. There's studies that show it. Get it out of your eyesight at least. So turn off your notifications. Turn off the rings and pings and dings. Get your phone out of the room. Studies show that if your phone is in your line of sight, that you're more likely to pick it up. You're more likely to be scrolling, to be checking what's going on. So get it out. When I'm working, I very often, if I can't get it out of my room, I just put it behind my laptop so I can't see it. And I promise you, today I want you to just try and do it and see the difference it makes. It's quite phenomenal. And stay in your lane. Unfollow those distractions and those triggers. And then the final thing that I see is trying to do everything all at once. So with ADHD, we have impaired executive functioning, and our executive functioning is kind of like the doing part, the adulting part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. And executive functioning is the part that allows us to do what we say we're going to do. It helps us plan. It helps us organize. It helps us with time management. It helps us to regulate ourselves emotionally. Think of it like the kind of like board of directors of your brain, and everyone's got jobs and everything's happening perfectly. With ADHD, very often those messages in the brain can become scrambled, they get slow, they don't make it in time. We have this impairment around our executive functioning. What we can do to improve that, and we'll be talking about this in future episodes, is work on our prefrontal cortex. Things like meditation can be really good for this. But here we are sitting right now, our brains tend to treat everything coming in equally. That filing doesn't get done very well. So everything comes in all at once, and all of those ideas can merge into one, and they don't stop. They can come and come and come. So actually what we can find ourselves doing is starting one task, and then our brain reminds us of something else that we haven't done, and then our impulsivity kicks in, so we start to focus on that until something else pops up, and then we go off again until we get to the end of the day having achieved nothing, with lots and lots of windows open, half written emails, half ordered shopping orders, all over the show. We struggle with time management. We struggle with time blindness. We tend to vastly overestimate the time, the tasks that we find boring are going to take. And we massively underestimate the quick 5-minute tasks we think that we can fit in. And then we end up losing time in the tasks that we love and we find interesting. The ADHD brain, like I say, will always prioritize doing the interesting stuff over the boring stuff. No matter how important that stuff is, no matter who's relying on us, no matter how much we love them, if we don't put real good structure and scaffolding around us, we will always go for the interesting stuff, because the interesting stuff is where the dopamine is, and our brains need dopamine. We need dopamine for motivation. But we struggle with time and we don't feel it passing, and so we distort reality. So we can find ourselves overscheduling ourselves and then feeling exhausted and overwhelmed, and then maybe having to reluctantly or embarrassingly cancel events. We need to learn to focus on one thing at a time. What is the most important thing? What is going to move the dial forward? with my clients, we talk about taking small steps. With ADHD, it is all about taking small steps, and it's all about understanding that we don't have to do it all right now, and we don't have to do it all at once. And if I look back over my life in business, very often half the problems were because I was trying to do everything at once. So as things have gone now, I wrote a book, I got that out there, then I launched a program, great, then I wanted to get some accreditations done, then I did that. Beforehand, the old Kim would have been like, right, I'm going to write the book, I'm going to launch the podcast, and I'm going to get that accreditation done. And I would try and do everything all in one go. And what would happen was nothing would be finished, nothing would get done. So I have a real strict rule with myself now, is that I work on one project at a time. So at the moment, podcast, all in. I'm all in with it. I'm going to record several episodes up front. I'm going to try and be super organized, so that I can put that time aside. And I know that means I'm not transitioning between tasks. It means like I can get in the flow, and I'm not trying to do everything at once. And I can take one project and I can start it and I can make myself finish it. And of course it's challenging to finish it. We really struggle with tying up those loose ends, because like I say, usually by that time we've gone from that task and we've done the good stuff, and we're like, yeah, and the brain is kicking in and the ideas are coming in as to what we need to get onto next. But we only get paid for done, right, guys? So we have to tie up the loose ends and we have to finish the tasks. So we need to learn to plan on focusing on one thing at a time. And that's the thing that is the most important, not the thing that is the most interesting. It's the thing that is going to move the dial forward. So when you sit down and you're thinking and all the ideas are coming in and there's all the things you want to do, I want you to ask yourself, what is the first step? What is the first step that I need to take? And make that a small step. And I want to share with you something that I share with all my clients, and that is VITs. VITs are VITS. Very important things. I want you to start picking 3 VITs a day. No more than 3. And these are the most important things you need to get done that day. Now, you may only have one VIT. Like today, my VIT was to get these first few podcasts in the bag. It might be that you have a VIT that is, okay, I need to send that email out. I need to pick up the dry cleaning, and I need to make sure that I eat my lunch. I eat lunch today. Whatever is the most important thing for you, it doesn't have to just be business. But when we have these big, long to-do lists, a couple of things happen. Number one is we do the things that are going to give us the quick ticks, right? Because tell me a tick doesn't feel good. Like, how good does it feel actually doing a tick? It's like ka-ching, little dopamine hit. So sometimes we put things on the to-do list just so that we can tick them off. And we tend to do the stuff that is more reactive. We tend not to do the proactive stuff because that's the hard stuff to get started. So if we can start every day identifying our VITs, very important things, no more than 3. If it's just one, that's absolutely fine. So guys, I want you to have a look. Maybe some of that's resonated with you. I'm sure if you have ADHD, it has. And like I say, a lot of that is from my own experience. And I just want to say to you, wherever you are in your business right now, just know that understanding how your brain works, understanding what works for you and what doesn't, and being okay with being brave enough to go, no, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not going to do that way. I'm going to do this my way. And also being confident enough to slow things down, to be like, yeah, I know there's all these opportunities. I know there's all these amazing things I can do. I know I'm missing out, but right now I need to do this. Last year, I spent most of the year, and probably quite a bit of the year before, but certainly last year, I missed out, in inverted commas, on a lot. I didn't go to a lot of events. A friend of mine said to me, God, where have you been? I haven't seen you anywhere. Because actually I was like, right now I just need to sit down and I need to get on with what I'm doing. So where do you need to just get on, and what are your daily VITs? Let me know in the DMs or hit me up and let me know what your takeaways are from today and what little bit of action you're going to put in to get you moving forward. Thanks for listening. Peace out, and I'll see you again soon.